Testing 1, 2, just making sure you can see me and hear me. All right. Just give a minute here for everybody to settle in. Okay. Cool. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay. This is awesome. Thank you for being here. This is great. Let me get myself situated here. All right, so what we're going to be talking about today, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is great. We are now in our second live session, and we're celebrating the Christmas Guitar Challenge. All right, and let me just get my stuff here, get ready for everything. So remember, I'm just going to say this right away, and so you can check this out at any time you want, but we have a Christmas guitar bundle for you to check out. There'll be a link somewhere around here that you can click on and see if that's something that you're interested in. And certainly soloing, technique, all that kind of stuff are things that we'll be talking about. Now, because of the group and seeing the posts from people, I know there are a lot of different people on different journeys right now in that group. So some of you have just started playing, some of you have been playing for a while. So I want to make sure that our conversations kind of cover everything. So today, I know we talked about increasing speed and accuracy, and we will talk about that. But I want to talk again more holistically about some things for everybody. So it's not just about guitar soloing or something like that. It's about everything. So I got some notes on my my phone here that I'm going to be referring to. But the big thing I want you to think about is when it comes to the overarching concept of technique. Okay, technique. What we're dealing with is we're dealing with the construction of something, the development of that thing, and then the execution of that thing, whatever it might be, okay? Because when we talk about technique, we're not just talking about speed picking or how fast you can pick on the guitar. We're talking about chord transitions, right? Moving from one thing to the next. We're talking about the execution of things like bending or vibrato, right? Which I've always found, like in lessons and stuff, that people struggle with to be able to do that on a confident level. You know, if I was playing, whatever it is that I'm playing, my ability to be able to execute that. Now again, so for me, it's not a matter of fast or slow, although I will be giving you some pointers today on, you know, speed picking and things like that, because that's what we talked about doing. But I just want to talk further about that for everybody, because when I think about my history of playing guitar and, you know, playing in bands and getting hired for all kinds of different things, it's not just based on how fast I can play a scale or a lick. It's how well can I execute whatever it is that I'm trying to do, and then make that fit in context of, you know, whether I'm playing with a metal band or I'm playing in church or I'm playing with the symphony. My ability of being able to make that function properly. So that's why I want to make sure we're talking about this holistically. Again, thank you everybody for being here. I see we have more and more people coming in. So I want to let you know that I appreciate your time. I always appreciate the fact that you want to spend time with me and talk about guitar playing. I think it's awesome. Okay? So thank you so much. So what we're talking about today is technique and understanding that it's dealing with construction, development, and execution. So construction, let's start there. Let's say we were talking about, and because it is Christmas, I'm going to show you this thing here, this little, how does this go again? Like the beginning of Jingle Bell Rock, right? Just something like that. And I know I've got a video out there somewhere, and it might even be in the book, I don't know, that talks about that. But in order to play Jingle Bell Rock, it's not like it's overly difficult, but it requires technique to be able to execute it and make it sound properly. So first thing I want to explain is, if I was going to try and play that, and I'll break it down a little bit for you, and we'll talk about all the elements of it. The first thing I have to do, to be completely honest, is I have to think about my guitar tone. Now, right now, I've got a tone with quite a bit of distortion on it. So if I take my pickup selector and go down into my bridge position and turn my volume all the way up, I have more distortion than I would ever need for Jingle Bell Rock, right? I mean, technically it could be clean, but I'm not going to play it clean right now because I wanted to show you this. So what I would do is maybe go to the center position there, because this guitar has a 3-position switch. So when I put it in the center, what it's doing is it's splitting these into what's called single coil pickups. And then if I drop my volume back, it cleans it up. Okay, so understand that on a guitar, when you lower the volume, the volume doesn't just go down like a stereo. Okay, when it goes down, it starts filtering out frequencies and gain. So as I lower that volume down, now understand too that at this point what I'm doing is I'm picking softer, and I'm getting less distortion as a result. So when you're going to play something, whatever it is, understand going in that you want to set up your tone to be responsive in a way that makes sense for whatever it is you're trying to play. So for Jingle Bell Rock, I don't need that, but I want it on hand right now just for some other things we might be talking about. So instead of switching, presets and all that kind of stuff, for me, most generally, I'll just use my guitar for everything. So there I am. So now when I play this, it has a lot less distortion than it would have if I had made these adjustments. So be aware that you have a lot of power in manipulating the way your guitar is set up and the way that you're picking it. Okay? So again, if I was playing something like, let's say I'm playing a solo, right? So I'm soloing in E major. So I go over. See how I can adjust and make the dynamics change by the way I'm switching the pickups and switching the volume and then the way I'm picking, okay? So I don't want to get off in the weeds, but I want you to be aware of that makes a really big difference. And so when it comes to technique and the execution of something, having the proper tone and the proper feel for what you're trying to do is going to make that a lot easier, okay? If I turned this all the way up and played... It's not that it might not sound cool, but it's very dissonant and very noisy at that point, okay? Now again, I might like that, but my point is in order to execute that, we have these 3 steps again, right? So the first thing is the construction. So let's talk about that. So in playing this, the first thing I need to do is memorize this, okay? I need to get it off the paper and into my brain, right? So now I'm playing 14, 15. That's the first thing I'm doing there. And then I'm going to 14, 14. So right there, what I need to do is decide what fingers am I going to use for a proper execution, for comfortability, right? So I'm using my first and second and then going to my first. Now you might decide on something else. The second thing I need to think about is my picking. Right now, I'm not playing them all down, but there'd be nothing wrong with doing that. But I need to be aware of that when I'm playing it. So the first thing is the setup, tone, all that kind of stuff. The second thing is the fingers for the execution of this thing. And the third thing is the picking approach that I'm going to take. And I'm going to use this a lot when I'm playing songs, whether it's chords, whether it's scales, whatever it might be. I'm going to have to make some choices on what my left hand is going to do in terms of fingers and what my right hand is going to do in terms of picking. So that's why I'm playing it. If you decided you want to play it with downs and it felt better to you and the overall execution worked better for you, then there's nothing wrong with that. The one thing you always want to be careful of when you're making choices is whether or not you're making the choice because you cannot do it another way. Now, that's not bad, because we all have limitations. Every single guitar player, every single human on the planet has limitations, right? So if I needed to play Jingle Bell Rock by, Saturday, and today is Wednesday, and I was going to play it for, live in front of an audience, I only have a few days to prepare, and I need to do it the way that works best for me right now, right? That's the real world. That's what we deal with all the time when we're, guitar players that are in demand in some capacity, whether it's playing in a band and you're playing on stage, or whether you get hired for stuff or recording or whatever it might be. You have deadlines. And when you have deadlines, you have to make choices relative to that deadline. So please be aware of that. So the thing to remember kind of above and beyond that, though, is that there is time after that to further develop something to get it to a place where you want it to be. Like if you said, man, I really want to be able to do that with alternate picking because I think it sounds better. I just can't do it right now, and I got to play this Saturday. I'm going to play it the way I got to play it. But then after that, I might decide to continue studying and develop that. Does that make sense? Those are the choices you're going to have to make in the real world. If you never have a deadline, then it doesn't really matter, I suppose. And so that's why I would encourage every single one of you at some point in your life to start giving yourself deadlines. Whether it means you get involved in, playing in a band or playing with other people or doing recording or whatever, or maybe it's just, personal deadlines that you create for yourself. It's important to do that, because it's easy when it comes to technique to get stuck in these ruts where we look at other people and go, well, that person played it that way, and if I can't play it that way, then I'll just never, ever play live, play with other people until I can develop that. Well, we are creatures that are set up to fail all the time because of that mentality. We're always telling ourselves, I can't do it the way that person does it, so I'm just never going to do it until I can do that. Next year or the year after or the year after, when it comes to theory and chords and scales and technique and all these things and recording and God knows what else, right? We're just constantly setting ourselves up for failure by saying that, well, I'm going to wait until someday I will, right? Well, that someday may never come. You have to start figuring out who you are as a player and what works best for you, okay? I am not Steve Vai. I am not Randy Rhoads. I am not Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? I am not B.B. King. I'm me, doing what I do the way I do it, right? And I want to learn from all these people, but at the end of the day, it's my execution of these things that makes the biggest difference. So when I'm playing Jingle Bell Rock, I didn't call you to figure out how to play it. I have to figure out what works best for me. And if there are things in there as I'm learning it that I see a problem with, I need to then look at it and figure out how to fix it in whatever way makes sense for the way I play or the journey I'm on or the direction I want to go, right? So as I play, the next thing I got to do is go back to 14, 15, and then I'm going to add my pinky on the 17th fret of the first string. See that? So now for me, I like that down up because when I do that up, you really hear that 17 on the top there. So you're getting that melody happening there. And then the next part we go to 14, and it's okay if this is going too fast for you. You can watch it later, okay? Again, if this is, it's just an example, right? So we have, and then here, right there, I'm playing 14 on the third string and 15 on the second string. And then I'm going to do the same thing 2 frets higher, but instead of going up like that, doing the same thing, I'm going to use my third and my pinky instead. So 2 different fingers. Because I want to go back. Now I could have gone and then shifted down, but for me it sounds too disjointed to do that. So I made a decision to use these 2 fingers instead. And then I bend them, and then I come back down. So I have, so bending, right? Finger choices, picking choices, all these things. Now here, Now you're going to notice right there what I did was now I'm playing them down. Okay? Now again, this isn't really something that I sat and thought out. At some point in my life I did, right? But now that I've been playing for this many years and these many hours, these are things that kind of happen automatically. And I don't have, because again, I find students talking about these sorts of things. I don't have an inner turmoil because I played the first part with alternate picking and the second part with down picking. It doesn't adversely affect the way I think about things and go, well, I can't do that. It's either I'm alternate picking the whole thing or I'm down picking. No. It's what feels best for those three things. I got to keep turning my phone on, right? Construction, development, and execution. So I'm constructing, and then what I'm doing now is developing. I'm figuring out how I want to use my fingers. I'm figuring out how I want to pick this to make the execution the best that it can be. Does that make sense? So it's important for you to think about that when you're learning stuff, right? Even if I was learning something where I'm going, let's move on from there to another example. Not that this is a song that you want to hear anymore, because I'm sure you don't. But just watch this. So if I play... right? If I play that, it's actually a really great exercise in these things that we're talking about. Because what makes that song difficult is trying to keep all the other strings quiet, and then while you're picking each one of the notes, keeping each one of those notes separate from each other. Okay? So it's not noisy. Like all that kind of stuff, right? It's trying to keep it quiet. So in the construction phase, again, the first thing I'm doing is I'm visualizing. So I'm going from 12 to 15 to 14 to 12. So that's my first part, is going 12 on the fourth string to 15 on the second string, and then on the third string I got 14, 12. So I'm visualizing, I'm constructing this in my head. 12, 15, 14, 12. 12 on the fourth, 15 on the second, and then 14, 12 on the third. So I'm visualizing it. Now I go in and I start developing it. How am I going to pick this? What fingers am I going to use? Now for years, I used to use my first, my pinky, and my third finger when I would play this on stage or whatever, right? That's how I played it. Then for some reason, I saw a video of Slash playing it, and he was using these fingers, okay? First, third, and then middle, and not using the pinky. And so I got to thinking, well, why is he using that, right? And because I saw him doesn't mean that's the way I need to play it, right? Again, I don't have that opposition thing in my brain that sees Slash playing it that way, so I have to play it that way. No. I have to play it the way that works best for me in its ultimate execution, so it sounds the best that it can sound. Okay, but in watching him play that, what I thought was really cool was when he goes and he plays that, right there, he moves up. For whatever reason, it just makes more sense in control playing it the way that he's playing it. Let me show you why. So when you play 14, 15, I keep calling it a 14, sorry, 12, 15, 14, 12. And then we have this 15, 14, 14, 14. And again, I don't want to spend an hour trying to teach you this song. You can go learn this anytime you want. It's the technique. You can go learn it and then come back and watch this, right? So as I'm playing it, what I'm trying to do is keep all the strings under control. So strings that I don't want aren't ringing out, strings that I am playing aren't overlapping each other, and the more distortion I add, the harder that becomes. So I have to be careful. So again, what I've done, I'm on my neck pickup for this, but I've backed off the volume. It's just a thing I do all the time, and there's a lot of players that do that, where I have the capability of having a lot of distortion by turning that volume up. And again, I call it a volume, even though volume isn't really a great term for it, because it really isn't lowering the volume that much. What it's doing is it's sort of filtering out frequencies and gain as you lower that volume knob. That doesn't mean that there's not a change in volume to a certain degree, but it's, again, don't think of it like a car stereo or a stereo where you're turning down the volume. It's not like that. All right, so I've got that down, and now I'm trying to focus on the development of this, the control. So that's going to dictate as well what fingers I'm using, which I just said I'm using my first and third like he does. And also what picking direction I'm using. Now, I haven't ever thought about what picking direction I'm using as you watch me play. I actually have down, up, down, down. So I haven't really thought about it that much, but that's the way the execution for it works for me that feels comfortable. Okay? So again, is there a system? Well, it's sort of, but it's what makes most sense for you. Now, here's the kicker. And again, I apologize already if you're looking at this going, I don't know this song. You can always go learn it and come back and watch this. So again, I don't want to spend an hour just talking about Slash, right? Because we have other stuff to get to. But when we make the transition from the first segment of this song, again, as I'm learning this and I'm thinking about the construction of it, right? So I got the first part. Then he goes to 14 on the 4. Everything else stays the same, but the first note, the 14, it used to be a 12, now it's a 14. So when he switches to that, see what he's doing is using then his first finger for that 14, and then he's still continuing on with the exact same fingers for the rest of it. And it works really great for keeping it quiet. When I used to play it like this. And then when I got to this note, I would try and kind of move my third finger to cover both those 14s. And it never felt comfortable. The execution was never really comfortable for me. You know, I could make it sound good, at least I think so. But I always had an issue with the way it felt. When I saw Slash playing it, I went to this and I went, oh, okay. Now, that makes more sense to me, and I can see how that could offer more control by using that finger option, by moving that first finger up and then playing the rest of it exactly the same. That doesn't mean those are the only options. That doesn't mean Slash's way is the best way. It just made sense to me, the way he was doing it, and now when I play it, that's the way I play it. Again, please, let me make this clear. I'm not playing it that way because he played it that way, and I feel an obligation to play it that way. I don't even have that mechanism in my head. That music isn't like that for me. Again, that doesn't mean that it's wrong to do that. If that's the way you want to approach something and it would benefit you in the long run, I think that's wonderful. I just don't really think of things that way. But I did find benefit in seeing that because when I reconstructed this and looked at it, I went, okay, well, that makes sense. Okay? So if that makes sense, we're going to leave that now and move on. But I guess the last thing I'll say about that is there are other ways of approaching that. Somebody out there right now might play it a different way than the way I used to play it and the way Slash plays it, and it's okay. Again, I'm not playing... Right, I'm not changing the notes because if I do that, it's no longer going to be the song that it was. It might become something new, and that's cool, but that's not going to work if we're playing this song. Okay, so then the other thing I want to think about to explain to you are things, we're going to go a little more basic now for some of you, okay? So things like chord changes, right? Learning how to change chords effectively. If you were playing something like open chords, one thing you really want to get used to is doing a technique that's called bouncing, which is where you pick your fingers up and you set them back down. Because what you're really trying to do is train your fingers to make the chord that you want instantaneously, not this. This is how I played when I first started playing guitar. Like if I wanted C, I went like this. And it took me 5 seconds to make a C chord because I'm setting my fingers down. What you want to do is train yourself to be able to make the C like this. Here's my hand sitting on my leg. If I want C, my hand comes up, it makes the shape before I ever get to the guitar, which is the magic of bouncing. And then you set it down. All the fingers go down at once. So the trick to bouncing is picking your fingers up and setting it back down. But the trick is when you pick your fingers up to maintain that shape and then set it down and pick it up and set it back down. It's not how fast you can do it. It's not that. Like, again, people always make these weird, sub things in their brain of exercises. It's not like trying to do this as fast as possible. Actually, that's not even as beneficial. The trick is to take your fingers off and maintain that shape. Just like if I was on my lap here and or on my leg and I decide to make C, as I come up to the guitar, I've already made the shape. It just sets down. Or if I want G, or if I want D, or E minor, right? Whatever, it sets down. So the point of bouncing is you pick your fingers up and you train your hand to make that shape. So when you want D, again, the construction is you see it. You know what it looks like. The development is the bouncing. And the execution is the quickness of being able to make that chord or switch that chord if I want D going to G. Notice how, again, as I lift my fingers up, I make the new shape and just set it down. That's how things get fast. If I have to do this every time, it's going to be really hard to keep up with songs. So the trick to that then as well is limiting the amount of chords that you're working on. If you're a beginner and you're just starting to play, it doesn't matter whether you know 17 chords but not very good. What good's that going to do you, right? Learn 3 or 4 chords really, 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 really well. In what I always do when I teach lessons or classes or whatever, if we're starting with, beginners, I'll teach like G and C and D, because we can play literally 1,000 songs with those 3 chords, right? Yes, we want to learn A, and yes, we want to learn E, and yes, we want to learn whatever, right? Of course we do. But if we start with something and get on the board, we start with some chords and start playing some songs, boom, you're in, right? You're making chords, you're strumming, you're playing songs, you're thinking about song structure, verse, chorus, whatever, you're memorizing things. You're doing music. You're playing real things. That's way better than going, well, I know 428 chords sort of, but I don't really know them and I can't play any songs. Who cares? This isn't a contest to see if you can grow up to be an encyclopedia. That isn't what this is. It's, can I learn to play some things and make some music and have some fun and encourage myself and inspire myself to keep playing? That's what it is. And when you feel good about G and C and D and you're learning 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 or 11 songs, then start learning another chord. G and C and D will, and you guys know this for those of you that have been playing for a while, G and C and D will lead to E minor, right? So now you'll encounter a song where you have G, C, and D, but you also need E minor. Or maybe you wind up needing A minor. Well, hey, these are perfect reasons to learn those chords. So, again, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but just think about that. So, chords, bouncing. Now let's move on to power chords and bar chords. Okay, playing power chords. Let's say I was playing something where I'm going... There are 2 ways to move on the guitar when it comes to power chords, regardless of what power chord you're playing. You're either going to move by strumming, or you're going to move by sliding. Now, the truth is, unless you're lifting your fingers up, if I'm lifting my fingers up, I'm deadening. Notice how I'm touching those strings in between. But I'm going to get a pause in between, right? So if I want that, there's only 2 things I can do. Either I'm strumming or I'm sliding. And the truth is, you're always sliding unless you're picking your hand up. So when I play, my hands are not coming off. What I'm really doing is going like this. And you can hear that little sliding sound, right? But I'm timing the strum. So as soon as I move, I strum. So there's a timing thing that happens, and this is what technique is, right? Now, if I wanted to hear the strum, I wouldn't pick. So if we look at this one, that's why it's always a good song to try and play. If you know what song I'm playing, I don't want to get in trouble here. So, but I'm going from, on the 5th string, I'm going from 2 to 5, and then to 7. So from 2 to 5, I'm strumming, and there is a slide there, but I'm not trying to let you hear it. I'm trying to pick it so the timing is right. And then that part, I strum, slide, strum. You see that? So that's something that you need to get used to. If you're trying to learn songs that use power chords, you either are going to lift and move, which, again, you'll notice that because it'll always sound staccato like that. Or you're trying to move, right? So there's a smoothness in the motion, and you're either sliding with, and allowing the slide to be heard, right? Or you're strumming, you're timing your strums, okay? So that's another element of technique. So now, let's get into the speed part of this, okay? And then that way, if that's what you're interested in, we can talk about that. So the big thing is, again, the construction, the development, and so much the development, and then ultimately the execution. So if we think about it, if we took something like, when it comes to speed picking, the big thing is that you, in my opinion, in many people's opinion, if you can get to the point where you're playing 3 notes per string, you get a lot more mileage out of it than you do playing 2 notes per string. So for instance, this is the, Paul Gilbert, if you know who he is, sparked all of us, a generation of us, to start learning how to speed pick because of a instructional video that he used to have. So if I go, and it doesn't matter where I go, but let's just say I go to the 12th fret of the 2nd string, and I play 12, 13, 15, so I'm using my first, middle, and pinky. And again, if you're learning in chords and stuff, this is not going to be something that you need to worry about. But if you're learning scales and things, and this is what you're interested in. So what I do is I start learning how to play down, up, down. And at first, I don't really need a metronome or anything. I just need to start trying to balance this. So when I pick, I'm hearing my 12, my 13, and my 15, my first finger, my middle, and my pinky. And as I'm picking, I have to time this, just like the chord things. I have to time this so each note is getting a proper representation of time and volume. You see? So I start with that. The big kicker to this whole thing is then what I need to do is I need to start connecting to the first string. So I'm going to go to the 12th fret. And so now I've got this sequence where I'm going down, up, up. So I'm starting on the down on the 2nd string, and then I'm ending on an up on the 1st string. So you're getting this scoop, right? This down, up, up. And again, a metronome's not going to do me any good in the beginning. The first thing I need to do is I need to feel this out. While I'm doing this, what I'm doing is using my hand to touch all these other strings so they're staying quiet. If I let go, oftentimes they're going to start vibrating. So I need to control those. Just so you know, too, I've often found that when I'm doing these, instead of having my volume all the way up, so I'm full gain, if I drop back a little bit and clean that up, again, it's easier to control. So you got to get used to the feel of that. Okay? And you just practice that over and over and over, trying to get in your head down, up. That down of the 12 and the up of the next 12. Just over and over and over. So what we're going to do real quick here, I'm going to keep going with this, but I want to take a break and let you see a video where we explain the Christmas bundle and see if it's something that's right for you, okay? So take a look at this and then we'll come back, all right? Today, you can click the Yes, I Want This Christmas Bundle button to get instant lifetime access to 6 brand new guitar courses on playing songs by ear, licks, soloing, jamming, and more that I'll reveal in the next few minutes of this video. So pay close attention to the message so you can see if it's right for you. Hi, I'm Steve Stine, and I want you to play your favorite songs without looking up tabs, or play solos that burn up the fretboard, that people will love because they sound great and look effortless. and ultimately have more fun playing guitar and have the confidence to jam with fellow musicians. Then keep watching this video, because you're about to discover a simple way to play songs by ear, massively increase your picking speed and accuracy, mix and match killer licks to create awe-inspiring solos across the fretboard, and play anything you want on guitar. But there's one big problem that's holding you back. It's something I've seen again and again in my 35 years of being a guitar teacher to hundreds of thousands of guitar players worldwide. That big problem is only having bits and pieces of the guitar playing puzzle figured out, and not seeing how everything fits together to be a complete, confident, well-rounded guitar player. In fact, you've probably felt frustrated and confused for years. Now, the good news is that it's not your fault, because you were never given a simple step-by-step plan of guitar courses to follow to see real, noticeable improvements in your guitar playing every day. That's why I created the Ultimate Christmas Bundle. The Ultimate Christmas Bundle gives you instant online access to 6 new guitar courses to skyrocket your guitar playing. You'll get Learn to Play Songs by Ear. As a guitar player, one thing you probably want is the complete freedom to play any song. In fact, you've probably already spent hours trying to figure out songs using YouTube videos or online guitar tabs, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I bet you've noticed that both of these waste a lot of your time. Not only that, sometimes they're just plain wrong, and then you end up frustrated and may even pick up some bad habits that will hold you back for years. Ultimately, you don't develop the skill to hear the music and figure it out quickly in your head, which is a skill that you really want to develop if you ever want to play with other musicians. But there's an easy way to get around all that. It's exactly what pro musicians use to learn songs in minutes, and the good news is that even a beginner can use this skill to figure out songs without having to look up any tabs. It's called ear training, and that's exactly what I'll show you in my new course, Learn to Play Songs by Ear. I'll show you simple ways to figure out the chord progressions to songs in minutes, because there's a big secret most guitar players never hear about. Thousands of popular songs in rock, pop, and blues use the same chord progression. It's called the 1-4-5. Don't believe me? Check out what Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits has to say.
When you learn your first chords and you're going... That's a very basic kind of... That's your 1 chord. And here's your 4 chord. Then your 5 chord. The same chords in the B and a blues. It's the same chords, your 1 chord, and then the bit that would be that. It'd be the same thing. So it's the same. It's really all the same music.
When you realize that you can cut the time it takes to learn new songs in half, it also works for solos. Imagine what it will feel like when you're hanging out playing music with your friends and someone says, "Hey, can you play this song?" And instead of freezing up, you say, "Give me 10 minutes." You'll quickly download it on your phone, listen to it, and within a few minutes you'll have the chord progression down. You go through it a couple of times on your own just to make sure you have the chord changes down. Then you say, "I got it, let's try it with everyone." With the skill of ear training, you can even watch another guitarist start playing and anticipate what will come next, because you'll already have learned the skills of common chord progressions and what to listen for. So the rhythm section starts things off and you launch into the chord progression. Your fingers are nailing each chord without any hesitation. Everyone's smiling and having a great time playing music together. And you even have a killer idea for a solo, but more on that later in this video. Now that skill alone is worth your entire investment in the Ultimate Christmas Bundle, but we're just getting started. because you'll get picking booster. You may not believe it, but your guitar pick is the biggest amplifier that there is. You can change the whole tone of a song or lick just by how hard or soft you pick it, without having to adjust the volume. That's why your picking technique is so important. You want to play clean and clear without tripping over your fingers or hitting dead notes. You want to learn to play fast solos for real and not fake your way through. That's why I've also included my new Picking Booster course to help you massively improve your picking speed and accuracy. I'll show you my best tips and tricks to build your finger strength, stamina, and most importantly, hand synchronization. So your left hand is hitting every note that your right hand is picking, which is something 98% of guitar players never get right. Now this will work for you even if you have weak hands or fingers, or you feel like you've tried everything. And it's a total game changer when you're learning solos by players like Eddie Van Halen or Kirk Hammett. It's also ultra impressive. But we're just getting started because over my 30 years of playing and teaching guitar to hundreds of thousands of guitar players across the world, I've noticed another huge problem. Most guitar players don't really know how to solo. Sure, they might know a few scales and how to play them across the fretboard, but they have no idea how to play solos with feeling like Eric Clapton explains in this video.
And for me, I just start singing. But I do it with the guitar. If that's the groove, and it will be... That's just me singing, really. It's just really all it is a voice. You know, it's got nothing to do with technique at all. Experience maybe of, you know, having confidence in knowing that what you hear in your head you can do with your hand. But apart from that, it's not any cleverness at all, it's just feeling.
That's why you'll get my new course, Major Key Soloing. Now this soloing course is unlike any soloing courses that I've ever created because it's entirely focused on creating solos that sound like you're singing in major keys. Now why is that important? Because most guitar players only learn to solo in minor keys like you hear in some classic rock and tons of blues songs. But here's the big problem with that. Spotify recently analyzed 30 million songs in their database and found that more than half of the songs are written in major keys. That means you're missing out on soloing over thousands of popular songs like Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd, Jessica by the Allman Brothers Band, Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, and many, many more. Just like every other guitar player who just noodles around out there and doesn't put things together. I want more for you than that, and in Major Key Soloing, I've made soloing over major key songs easy. I'll take you by the hand using a hit song you'll instantly recognize and show you how to create a jaw-dropping major key solo over it. Best of all, this can be applied to any major key song you want to solo over. Now, with your new soloing skills, you're going to need some licks. So in the Ultimate Christmas Bundle, you'll also get my 21 Legato Licks course. Now, 21 Legato Licks builds on every previous course that I've talked about. You're already able to hear chord progressions and figure out songs in minutes with Learn Songs by Ear. Your picking speed and accuracy has skyrocketed with Picking Booster, and every note you play is coming out clean and clear. You're now soloing with complete confidence with Major Key Soloing, and now you're ready to add some jaw-dropping licks to your arsenal. That's why I've also included 21 Legato Licks. Now these licks are the perfect complement to your guitar solos. They're not basic licks that every other guitar player knows. These are awe-inspiring licks that feel awesome to play and make anyone listening say, wow, what was that? I've broken each lick down step by step so you'll know exactly where to put your fingers and won't have to worry about hitting wrong notes. And you'll be able to mix and match them to play solos faster and better than you ever thought possible, which will make you a true lead guitar player who knows how to tell a story with your guitar solos. So everyone listening hangs on every note that you play. But I've taken everything a step further, because the truth is, there's no better way to continually improve your soloing than jamming. And while I was making this Ultimate Christmas Bundle, I thought, what better way to wire in everything to learn songs faster and play amazing solos than jamming with me personally? So I've included something I've never offered before. You'll get my new collection of interactive jams. Now, I recorded these interactive jams to simulate how to improve your rhythm and soloing in the real world. You'll get several jams in different styles where I show you how to play the chord progression. Now I know that might not sound exciting, but remember, 95% of the time, a guitar player is focused on rhythm. That's why it's part of the rhythm section. And once you know what's going on with the rhythm, you'll have the tools to create a plan for your solo. But that's where things get really cool with these interactive jams when it comes to soloing. I've recorded them so that you and I can trade licks back and forth. So you're improving your soloing and learning how to play with another musician, which improves your sense of rhythm, timing, and phrasing. So your solos sound like an extension of the song rather than a bunch of random notes strung together. And I'll be adding new interactive jams throughout the year, so you'll have an entire library of jams to improve your soloing for years to come. Finally, you get my Motivation Vault. Now these are short, focused guitar lessons with one golden nugget to improve your guitar playing in the shortest time possible. They cover specific topics like learning songs, picking, strumming, creating a practice routine, blues, and of course soloing. Think of them like a weekly dose of motivation to keep you progressing on your guitar journey. Now, they've never been offered for sale before, and you can only get them when you place your order today. You'll also get a progress tracker for each course and membership in our private Facebook community where thousands of members hang out and share their passion for guitar playing and encourage each other to contribute in a positive and encouraging way. Your Ultimate Christmas Bundle gives you lifetime access to learn to play songs by ear, picking booster, major key soloing, 21 legato licks, my interactive jams, and Motivation Vault, and has a total value of $414. But you won't even pay close to the retail value of $414 for the Ultimate Christmas Bundle. Not $300, not $150, not even half that. Your total investment today for the Ultimate Christmas Bundle is just 3 easy payments of $19.60. And if you want to save 20% today, you just select this one and done payment option when you check out. But you need to act fast because this is only available until the big timer hits 0 on this page. So click the Yes, I Want This Christmas Bundle button below to get the Ultimate Christmas Bundle now, and you're protected by my 30-day guarantee. Truly put your Ultimate Christmas Bundle to the test for a full 30 days and see if it's right for you. If you don't think it's a good fit, no big deal. Just contact our friendly support team and they'll issue you a full refund or exchange. No questions asked, no receipt required. However, I can only offer this price for a short time. Once the big timer hits 0, this page will be removed and you'll miss out. So click the button below to get the Ultimate Christmas Bundle today, which gives you lifetime access to 6 all-new courses. Learn to play songs by ear, picking booster, major key soloing, 21 legato licks, my interactive jams, and Motivation Vault before the big timer hits 0. And have a Merry Christmas. All right, so hopefully that was cool for you. If you're interested, please check it out and see if it's something that's right for you. And if it's not, it's not. But maybe it is. Maybe it's something that can help you, all right? So let's keep going. So now we've developed this. And again, this development thing that we're talking about for any of this stuff isn't going to happen in a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or maybe it will for some things, right? But some things take weeks. Some things take months. Some things take years. I hate to tell you. It all depends. If you're constantly trying to tackle 7,000 different things, the problem is that it's easy to get overwhelmed and you're not really doing anything good with any of them. You're just, giving 2 minutes to this and 3 minutes to that, and 2 minutes to this and 5 minutes to that. The most important thing that you can do, just like I said about open chords, learning your G, C, and D, hone in on what you need most, what's going to make the most positive effect on whatever it is you're trying to do, and get really good at that. And then worry about other things as they come up. But you have to develop something. So the beauty of this thing is when you develop this. Now, here's the next part I want to show you is I'm just going to go backwards after I'm done. And I'm ending on the same down that I started on. Over and over and over, I can just practice that, okay? Now, after a while, what I'm going to want to do then is set a metronome. So now I'm moving into the next development phase here, once I've gotten through this sort of preliminary thing, and I'm going to start doing... Now notice how I'm going decada, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So as I set that metronome, I'm going to start trying to dial in a speed. Ta, 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 ta. Notice how I'm not doubling up. I'm going over and over and over. And I can do that over and over and over and keep working with that metronome. Now, the beauty of that lick, of that 3-note per string idea, is it's movable anywhere you want to go. So if I was in the key of, for instance, G major, or E minor is the relative minor, I could go here, or here, or here, or here, and I could connect those. And I can make all kinds, I can move across where I can do 3-note per string stuff all over. And again, that's a whole nother conversation. But you can see how that one thing can really positively affect all kinds of things you can do around the fretboard. It's not just this one lick here in this one key, right? It could be done all over the place. So that's the benefit of larger things like that. So we've talked about songs and using technique within the construct of songs. Okay, we talked about chords, and now we're talking about scales, namely 3-note per string stuff. But you can see how there's a lot of different ways you can approach this, and of course in the bundle we're going to be talking about a lot of this stuff. So the last thing I want to give you, and then I'm going to get you off here because I don't want to take too much of your time. I thought since it's Christmas I would play this. Like the beginning of Amazing Grace. Now here's what I want you to think about, and this kind of goes back into the ear training that we did in the last live session. So as I play it, notice how what I'm doing is I'm playing 12, 12, 12. Now, because I have to keep shifting strings, it might wind up sounding a little bit blocky. I might need to do this because I'm visualizing it in a scale position, right? As most of us learn how to play. We see, a position on the guitar and we memorize that and all that sort of thing, which is perfect. So I might need to do that. But when I play it like that, I notice that it has a bit of disjointedness because as I move, it's hard to try and move those between those 3 strings. So in my mind, the first thing that I do then is I go to, well, what if I could do this then? And find another way of playing it if I went, here now what I'm doing is doing it all on the 3rd string. Now there's a little space in between those, so it might, take a little while to get comfortable with, but that might work better. Here's another thing I could do, is instead of going all the way up to that one and then this one, I might go right here. Now I'm going from this 7 to this 8 of the 2nd string, but at least because of the tuning of the guitar, they're off frets. I'm going from 7 to 8, so I have a little more space. And then I could go into that, or notice right there, now I got 7, 8, 7, right? So they're in different frets, so it gives me a little more room to work. Now, I'm not a big advocate of winding up on my 1st string with a vibrato all the time, so for me, I probably would do something along those lines, right? And plus, I like the sound of slides and all that kind of stuff anyway, but it's just something to think about a little bit when you're learning something. Just because that's the way it was written or that's the way it was shown to you doesn't mean it's the only way you can approach it. If you don't like the construct, you can change it. Find something that works a little bit better for you, all right? So hopefully this has helped you a little bit in your playing, and stay positive, keep practicing, obviously, and check out the bundle, see if it's something that you might be interested in, and it could benefit you, and see if it's something that's cool for you, all right? So take care, stay positive, and I'll see you again on the 19th where we're going to start talking about some licks. And again, we're going to talk about licks for someone who maybe hasn't been playing for a long time, and we're going to talk about some licks for someone who has been playing for a little while. That way we kind of cover everybody. So again, stay positive, keep practicing, and check out the bundle, and I'll talk to you soon, all right? Thank you, everybody, for being here. I always appreciate your time, all right?